Hello, everybody. I'm just going to take a moment to verify that everyone can hear me. If you cannot hear me, then type into the box. For the questions, if you have joined us for webinars before, you know the deal, I'm sure, at this point. And if you don't, I will just explain again. We have an agenda of items that I'm going to cover today. And when I am done or about halfway through, I will stop for questions. The best way to do the questions is to simply type them into the text box that's provided by GoToWebinar. And then I will stop at the end, obviously, to answer any last questions before we end the session. So today's webinar is about the best practices in green rope. What does that mean specifically? Well, the agenda is going to be discussing green rope groups and what the idea of having a group-centric CRM is, which is what we've defined green rope to be. And this includes setting up the email options, the event options, and syncing your IMAP, which I will explain later. And then we'll take a little break and we will move to importing contacts with the CSV file and or the other various integrations that we have. And then lastly, assigning shared access. So to start up, we are going to look at setting up green rope groups. And as all things are best doing, we are going to begin at the beginning. Group settings is accessed by this wheel or axle icon to the right of the group name, or you can also access it here in your settings button under the account option. To explain, and this is something that I do when we're dealing with new customers and kind of acclimating them with the system, your account is the overarching umbrella, let's say, or the foundational element in which all of your marketing and such is done within the system. And then within your account, you have the option of creating as many groups as you want. Every group that you create can have its own website, has its own media library, has its own apps, calendar, contact list, and so on. There are a few features that are account-wide, and I believe that they are the SMS text feature, the surveys, social collaboration, and I think that that is about it. Unless you share files, you can do media library, and actually within the options for the files, you can share files either to just the one group that you uploaded it to originally, or to all groups within the account. So there are some stipulations in that. But aside from that, every feature that you set up is going to be particular to the group that you have. So when I change this group here, it's going to change all of the settings and all the little elements that I've already set up for that group or have yet to set up. Right now I'm in my main group, and this just perfectly shows how you can be involved with many different groups. So these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups that I have within my account. And then all the groups that I'm a member of, because I'm an employee of Green Rope, and these are groups that are actually in our main account, and I've been given shared access to this account. This is why I have these groups here. So if I change to team or management or one of those other elements, I'm actually accessing a totally different account, but it's a group that I can access because the pivotal focal point is my email address. So as I said, I'm going to begin at the beginning and just create a group. and we are just going to call it webinar test group. If I wanted to, and I had a group that had a certain setting template or some settings that I'm pleased with or whatever it might be, then I would choose one of these options as a carbon copy option for all those settings to be applied to my new group. If you notice, you also have group types. Group types is simply a means of identifying what your group will do. And actually, if you change some of these settings, like if you have scouts here or sports with player stats, it does change some of the elements, such as with the scouts, if you're using the advancement track, there are some advancement tracks that we've already provided for you, and that stems from one of the original, I guess, evolutions of the system, my scout link. And then if you choose, sports with player stats, it provides you a calendar that then has data fields to put in stats, for games. So there's a multitude of ways of managing different aspects of your business and aspects of your life. So one of the examples I like to use is the Chamber of Commerce president here utilizes the system to manage his business contacts in various groups, and then he has a group to manage his son's Little League baseball team. So you can, like I said, you can manage totally different aspects of your life. It's not simply compartmentalized to managing your business. And then you have the activity. The activity is really just, this is what your leads are called. So I have one group where it's friends, and then when I go to the filters, it'll show, you have 10 friends in this group or whatever it might be. And then if I have clients, it'll say clients. So this is just a terminology thing. It's not something to hang your head on, but just be aware that that will change some of the lexicon around the site for your group. So I'm going to now create the group, and it's going to prompt me to leave the page. And I'm going to show you a little nifty feature that will help you categorize your groups. So if you click on the group option here, all my groups that I've created are in here, and I can actually put them into a folder. So I'm just going to take webinar test group, and I'm going to plop it into my testing folder. And what that does is, if you see now, that webinar test group is not just showing, it is in this testing folder right here. So that is an option that you have within your account. We're going to go back to group settings now. I'm not going to go through each and every single setting as it is more of a thing to do on your personal basis, but I am going to touch on some of the highlighted features that will help you kind of steer the business or this group into the direction that you'd like it to be. If you notice around the site, there are little help bubbles that are scattered throughout. These help bubbles are very informative in terms of what setting you are changing, and or if it's a new feature that's just been rolled out. Generally, we add a help bubble there to explain how specifically to implement the new feature. So that's always a good thing to consult on a page that you've never visited before, or of course, if you always want a refresher. And if you want to keep the help guide open, you can just click on it, it'll turn green, and then you can click on it and it'll turn off. So obviously I've given it a name. My public description is actually something that will publish to my website if I want to activate that option within the general tab of the website. And again, there's a description that further explains this. The group type, we've gone over that before, but you can always change that if and when you decide to within the group's existence. The activity, again, your role. You can, again, this has to do with lexicon and just what you'd like to call yourself. You can call yourself boss man. My mom likes to call herself the Royal Highness, so everyone has a different way of referring to themselves. Parent organization, simply just some text, green rope, whatever it might be. so that you are able to have some categories or categorization of the group itself. Demographic, what kind of demographic are you generally dealing with? All ages, so that's a changeable option. And throughout, the group PayPal ID is important because in my account, you can put in your PayPal ID and you can put in authorized.net. For each group, you can have different PayPal IDs. So where would this be applicable? Is like, let's say you're running some sort of fundraising and every group that you have is for a particular fundraiser. So basically, you'd have a different PayPal ID to pull in that money to specific accounts in your PayPal portfolio, or if it's just for individuals. So that's one way of looking at it. We're going to move to email options. Again, I'm not going through all the options. So these are different things that you can cover when we get off of this webinar. And again, once it's posted to the help section, you can always review it and kind of go through these options on your own time. The email options are probably the most important in terms of really categorizing the group to the way that you'd like to dictate it. And what I mean by that is a lot of people will look at groups as, so how can I manage my sales team? And as we know, some sales teams can be generally are a little territorial, so to speak. So they want to have compartmentalized contact lists and access for their sales reps. So this is where you would name the group Bob's group, for example, and then Bob's name could be placed here for the sent from, and his email could be given here, so bob@gmail.com or something like that. So you have, and this is important to understand, the ability to really categorize and compartmentalize these groups to fulfill different functions of your system. So you can break down your groups to sales agents, to regions, if that's how you run your business. Another way of breaking down groups is by having them be, one is your prospects group, where the sign-up forms or where the initial contact, whatever it might be by phone or any other way, you put them into a prospects group. And then with your drip campaigns that you send to prospects, you can then have automated marketing, which we can cover in a different webinar, but automated marketing, and I believe that that's actually already in one of our other webinars on the list, which I'll cover at the very end. But anyway, automated marketing to push them to specific groups. So as a random example, you could send out an email to your prospects that has one link for, let's say Cars magazine or Cars online, whatever it might be, and then another one that has, ESPN for sports fans, and then another one for, a movies website for people who are movie aficionados. And so whatever link that they click, you can push them to specific groups, and that other group that's specific to those links can provide them more compartmentalized and specified information to the people who have chosen those options. So that's another way of looking at groups, is looking at your groups as a means of funneling and creating a lead nurturing process. So again, I'm going to be deviating a little bit from the settings to explaining how groups can be created, just as an FYI. So again, send from name, send from email. We're going to use Bob as the example that you can place in here. Physical address can also be changed. Again, we do need a physical address placed on the bottom of emails. This is CAN spam law that we must follow. Using Google Analytics integration. Now, we have our own analytics. However, if you want to use Google Analytics as a pairing with our analytics, you can always use this and activate it and follow these directions to add the Google Analytics domain list in here. And that will pull in that data for your group. And then so you have all these different elements that you can change, the survey page, You can customize your survey page by following these instructions. Generally, anywhere throughout the site, if there's a customizing option, there's going to be a caveat in the sense that you are going to have to put in some line of coding to customize it so that our system can read it. So for example, in a surveys page, if you have a custom page setting, it needs to have this comment tag within it so that our system can identify it and then place what we've already built in, because the way that everything is integrated is with all these elements being pieced together. So the surveys rest within its own kind of resource, and it's able to talk to the rest of the system because it's all been built within the same tapestry or from the same, let's say, fabric. But if you pull in something that's totally different, such as your own custom page, that is possible. You just need to have these certain elements built into it so that our system can then talk to that. So this appears with the surveys. It appears with custom confirmation emails within sign-up forms, using your own website templates. So all of those are elements to look at. And again, why the help bubbles are super, super paramount to take a look at. You can send out birthday emails that are specific to every group. And this actually came up this week. If you specify birthday emails for every group in your account and you have one contact who's in 15 groups, guess what? They're going to receive 15 different birthday emails. So if you want to limit that, I would suggest simply having the birthday email chosen on the My Account end or specifying it just for one of these groups. So that's a little FYI. And so on to the blog digest. This is so that you can add in blog articles that you've created within our website and actually push them with a blog placeholder onto your emails that you send out within this group. Unsubscribe profile update management. This is important. I'm actually going to go back to the default settings page to help explain this. But anything that you select in here will be an available option for your contacts when they decide to either update their profile or, much to your chagrin, unsubscribe from your list because maybe you've been sending them some information that they either don't need or you've been overly bombarding them. So if you start getting and accumulating a lot of unsubscribes, that is a good sign and telltale sign to maybe change your marketing, change your strategy, or give it a little tweaking to allow people to be a little bit more engaged and interested in what you have to tell them. And this goes back to actually membership, which is an important setting I should have covered. If you have it as private, this means that no one, it won't be seen when they unsubscribe from the list. If you have it as public, and let's say again, we're going back to the idea of someone being in 15 groups and all 15 groups are public, when they select the unsubscribe link at the bottom of the emails, they will actually be able to see and choose from all of the possible groups. So having said that, make sure that you name your groups accordingly and keeping in mind a PC attitude. So you don't want to send out you can have a group called Nitwits if you so desire, but don't make the membership public for that group because then they'll see, oh, why am I in the Nitwit group, for example, which no one likes to be called that. So you have these options here, public, private, and hidden. If you want to just step away from having any of these elements in question, I would just leave it to private or hidden, and they can simply just unsubscribe or update the profile if and when they choose that option at the bottom of the emails. Event options. This was actually covered in our events webinar. But just quickly, you can actually customize these options that are going to be automatically applied to the different events that you create within your calendar, because again, calendars are specific to the groups. So if you have event reminder emails and you turn on all of these, they will be all reminders that will be sent out to your constituents. we, for example, when we create meetings for our company, we will just have the 1 day before option selected, just to have people reminded that there's a meeting coming up. Include webcal link, so emails will have the link to subscribe to your events. That's a possible reminder email. You can customize this. Again, if you're going to customize it, you have different elements that you're going to have to put into it. Attendance confirmations, notify you when someone selects to attend. This all has to do with how many emails you'd like to receive from the system, as I'm sure that if you are dealing with a large number of people, you probably don't want to receive an email for every time someone confirms an attendance. So again, all these are various settings that you can set up within your account, and I suggest kind of looking through each one and checking the help bubble to make sure that they are options you want to turn on. So, moving to contact visibility, this is an option that if you have, and we're going to go back to explain this again with membership, if you have member logins enabled, so if you make this an interactive group, anyone who is in your group can access your Greenrope account. And I'm not saying that in a panicking way. They can access it to use the interactive modules such as the wiki, such as the forum, and see even themselves in that group. And so what you're going to do is, if you decide to use this, because some people use the groups as more of an interactive membership site, you would turn this option on. Then you'd have them go to the login page, simply put in their email in the forgot password page, whatever it might be, the email that corresponds with their contact data, fill out this option, they will receive an email to be able to log into the account. So that is something to look at, and why it's important with contact visibility is if you turn that on, any of these that you check on will be options that they can see of other people's contact information within the group. So if you want to share it all, click it all on, and if you don't, leave them off. Lastly, user-defined data. So user-defined data, you can use this in a multitude of ways. There are different types. This is probably one of the most helpful help bubbles in the whole site, because it really helps explain an important module of our system, and that's the user-defined fields. Because we provide fields to you, such as first name, last name, email, but here is where you can really add in information and data that's going to be specific to your account and specific to your business. So you have different types, select one, select multiple, and if you see here with the select multiple, I have various options that I provide to them, and if I want to add more, I just put in different sports, etc. So all these options separated by commas are options that will be in the actual data for the contact. And lastly, remember, sharing, this is important. So if you want to just share it with one group, you can just do this group, or share with all groups. So again, these are all options that you have well within your group settings. Always remember that if you want to save something, save it often and save it, it never hurts to save. And I learned that the hard way in college by having a computer crash on me hours before a 12-page paper was due, which was always fun. So save changes, and we're going to check my agenda really quickly. Syncing the IMAP. Syncing the IMAP, and this kind of goes back to the idea of your salespeople. If you're going to be building groups specific to salespeople, there can only be one IMAPed email per group. I repeat, there can only be one IMAPed email per group. If your email service provider does not have an IMAP friendly configuration, if it's POP, for example, you will want to have those emails forwarded to a Gmail account or something of that nature, and then activate the IMAP. We do have help articles about this in the help section if you just search IMAP, but quite simply, you just need to put in the server for the IMAP. So for Gmail, it's imap.gmail.com. I activate the SSO. My username is drtiola, and then my password is, I'm not going to tell you. But if it does it correctly, aha. So any of these that I wish to sync, I click on, I say continue, and it prompts me, fetching mail. This may take a few minutes. The last step that you need to do is go to the contacts page, and now that I've activated the IMAP for this group, I simply click get mail. Depending on how much time, I have 0 contacts in here, so it's probably not going to take the system much time at all. But if I had, 1,000 contacts and it's going through 3 years, 4 years of information, don't panic. It's just going to take, up to 15 minutes, half an hour, maybe even up to an hour, because we're fetching a lot of data. So it takes a little bit of time for that to be done. And it can be totally done while you're working on other elements. So that's why the thing kind of flashes and allows you to continue working on whatever other elements of the site that you like. So that is configuring the IMAP. And now, importing contacts. Well, actually, before we move to this, do we have any questions? If you have a question, there is a question box. Aha. All right, Stephen, how you set up folders is going to group. Here, the actual group button. So the word, you can create new folders and then just simply click and drag the groups in. So if I wanted to take this group out to show you again, I just select that option and then I'll click and drag it back in like that. When using a drip email for a shared media file, what's the easiest way to change the physical address for all drip emails? You can either do it if it's just in the account where you've specified the address, just change the account address, and that will populate that to the emails that are sent from that point on. If you've specified a specific address for that group, or if you haven't already, you can specify an address for that group, and that will be populated to the emails that you send from that point on. I will see if that's possible, Robert. He's asking to remove the gradient from the help bubbles. I will see if that is something. We are actually looking at revamping our UI at all times. So any suggestions that you put in, emailing suggest@greenrope.com is actually the best way of having that kind of seen by our developers and such. But I will make sure to make a note of that as well. So thank you. Lisa, what did I click on for what? For creating the folders? If it's that, I clicked on the group word right here. If it's something else, please just clarify and I can help you out with that. Robert, it is being recorded. What is the best practice as far as setting up groups for a company that sells 5 software titles? Customers can be, so it would be, the best way of doing that would be to do it per group and having each software title be a specific group within the account, because then you have specific marketing, and within the group you can actually have like here the logo, you can upload a specific logo, notes, the public description, so on and so forth. All those are elements that you can customize within the groups to specifically address the software titles that you have. All right. So that is it with questions. Megan, I see that your hand is raised. I'm actually not familiar with that. If you could just type in your question, that would be excellent, and I can address it when I take a break or when closer to the end of the webinar. So we're going to move forward from here and discuss importing contacts. So importing contacts can be accessed either here on the import page or here on the import tab. They both take you to the same spot. Basically, what you want to have is a file. And this is the best way of importing a mass amount of contacts, is a file with the data fields shown and corresponding. And we actually have an example file of this in everyone's media library. If you go to your media library and you select shared resources, this is our CSV file that we provide to you. So let me open this up and show you. And I actually have a suggestion that I'm going to see if we can implement for the future. Just be a moment for me to do this. Where is this going? So if you see here, here is the first row with all of the possible headers that we have. If you use this file, you will actually save yourself a great deal of time because this is set up to be read by our system. So when you have to align the headers, and for those of you who have imported contacts in our system before, you will know what I mean by that. But when you have to align the headers of the data fields present in your file to the systems, this one will actually identify all, most, if not all of them. The one thing I'm going to add in here, and maybe it was already taken out. It was. Excellent. So if you have a data field here that says groups, make sure that you specify what groups within your account you want to upload them to. And the way that you do that would be to have groups written, for example, and then you'd have, test, and then my other group is like family. So all of them need to be separated by commas. And this is the same with tags. So that is for your FYI. I guess that's a bit redundant. But that's important to know because what ends up happening is if you have groups and you don't specify them, it will import them to the blank space, which is the void that we call no groups, which is totally attainable again. But for and this is my 2 cents, take it or leave it, I suggest having one specific file for every group that you want to import them to. The reason being is that then you have a file, and you can always export your contacts, by the way, but so that you have a file of the representation of the groups that are in your account. So that's for your record keeping purposes. And for you to just keep yourself a little bit more organized with the importation. Another word of advice, if you have around 20,000 or more contacts, I would upload no more than 20,000 at a time in a file. So just make sure that you split the file in half, whatever you need to do, and just import them maybe 20,000 or less contacts at a time. So these are words of advice from my experience, of which I have a great deal with this. So go back here. When I select to upload the file, I have a series of options, and let's see if I can do this relatively quickly as it takes my computer a bit of time. Oh, there we go. All my files, media, what was that called? Media 19 something or other, 1937. So it's just going to take a moment for my computer to find this. There we go. So this is to show you what it does. So first row is a header, yes, delimiter, comma, always, pretty much always. Default group, you can change the default group even though it's going to default to the group that you're managing at the time, but you can always change it. Default tags. none, but you can tag them with something, all the contacts with something if you desire. Error handling, just leave that. Duplicates handling, you can change it if you like. We've set it to the best possible option for you. And then group handling, or no, tag handling, this is what I want. Create unknown tags. So you can create a bunch of tags, and you do that the same way that I showed you with the groups. You're going to separate them with commas. And every tag that you've separated with commas will then be created if you select create unknown tags. And as you see here, I told you with the specific file that we present to you in the resources of your media library, you have email, first name, last name, title, company, address one, boom, boom. All of them have been recognized by our system. So therefore, that saves you a great deal of time. Now, if you created user-defined fields, those will not be identified, in which case you will just have to click on here, find the specific identified field or field that you are talking about to import, and then when you are ready, you are simply going to select import this file. So that's one way of importing contacts. Another way is with the text file. Actually, I'm going to need to cancel out of this. A text file is simply first name, last name, email in text, and you just paste it in here. CSV, this is another way of doing it, but if you have it in CSV format, you might as well just put it in an Excel file and use the file upload that I just showed. You can import contacts from Yahoo. You can import contacts from Gmail, Economic, GoToMeeting, QuickBooks, Magento, and then lastly, you can have a suppression list. I'm not going through the specifics of these because it's pretty straightforward. You simply connect to whatever company it is and then import them after it's connected. And then suppression list. This is important because if you have a list of contacts that have unsubscribed from your, let's say you were using a previous system, like Aweber or whatever it might be, you will want to upload a file, which is just a list of emails in a simple text file up here, because that will, after you're done importing the file of all your contacts, that will suppress and AKA put them into an unsubscribed status so that you can then have them within your contact database. We don't charge you for them, so that's something important to know. We don't charge you for unsubscribed, bounce, or spam complaint contacts, but you have them within your records in case you want to reach out to them by phone or in some other means. And then this is actually the CRM import. We can cover this in a different webinar, but essentially you can upload CRM activities. Same exact idea as the file upload, but these are the categories, and you're going to want to make sure that they are all set within your within the file before you import. So that's an important thing to know. And then as a converse to that, you can always export your files. We have the request exportability option here. This is actually a security measure because if the account holder, for example, if someone's fired or whatever it might be, whatever situation, the account holder is the person who has to approve the exporting of the contacts, essentially so someone can't go in and sabotage an entire list of contacts. So those are the elements with that. And having said that, I'm going to move to our last item, which is shared access. And I actually just added, I hope it was added. I added an article with shared access here. And this gives you a step-by-step of how to do this, as well as with the IMAP I was telling you earlier. You can search and find the way to configure your IMAP in case you need a refresher. So, adding a shared access user, and I am in a group. I'm going to create a new contact, and we are going to use Billy Bob Thornton, and I don't know how to spell his last name. Thornton, I don't know. Thornton, here's a who. All right, so Billy Bob at Thornton.com. Maybe it's Thornton. I don't know. You guys tell me. I'm totally off on that one. Notes: once was married to Angelina Jolie. True story. I don't know how, but it happened. address and zip code. So these are different options you can set in your My Account page to capture specific elements. But I'm going to create and edit Billy Bob Thornton a little further. And here is his contact information. Here are CRM activities, of which he has none because I just created him, except for the little thing, the blurb saying where I created him and what time. And then the groups. So if I want to give Billy Bob Thornton access to my webinar test group, I'm going to select Edit Shared Access. I'm going to check all of these. If I want to give him access to other groups within my account, I go like this, bing bang, check all, and for all the ones that I want to add him to, I simply check on, have him do it. This is actually a new way of adding shared access. Before you were giving shared access in the My Account side only, and I will show that page, but this I find to be a much quicker and user-friendly means of doing it because you can add the contacts, add them to the groups they need to be added to, and give them the access all at the same time. Now, when this is done and saved, and I will show you again the overall view. So now I have one contact, Billy Bob has the ability to access my account. When I go to my account page, and this was the old way of adding shared access, before you had to add the contact, add them to the groups, and then come back to this page and see webinar test group, Billy Bob is right here. And so this is your overview of all the shared access, and you can give access to other contacts directly in here by adding their email address, selecting it here, and adding the email address. So if I wanted to give, let's just use one, auroramusic@gmail.com. This is one of my, so I'd add that, check on all these. Now, when I've set shared access and I have a number here that corresponds to my shared access user, I'm going to tell Billy Bob Thornton and all other constituents of my evil empire, oops, that's not going to go anywhere. I'm going to tell them to do the same thing that I highlighted with the interactive group contacts. Go to login page, go to forgot my password. Billy Bob is going to put in his email here, billybob@thornton.com. JTWVOH, and then I'm going to select this. I'm not going to send this email to the random person because heavens forbid this email actually does exist. And select the password request. I'm going to be sent a password, or Billy's going to be sent a password. He can then log into the system in the regular login page, and bada bing, bada boom, he is able to access whatever I've given him access to. So if I give Billy Bob access to all my groups, he will have access to all the groups. If I give him access to one, he will only have access to one. And having said that, do we have any questions before I touch on the last little elements? Let us see here. Oh, the questions are going down. Shoot. I missed the way you group groups. Lydia, it is done in group page here with the group button, and then you create folders and you can click and drag the different groups that you want into where they belong. To use the example again, I take webinar test group out, it's gone, and then I put it right back in. Oh, this is also important. There are icons next to all the groups, if you see. The little blue icon says that there's a website, and if you hold your mouse on the group, it'll show you this is a public group. You are the group leader. This group has a website associated with it. That's the icon. And then with this one, I have a little faucet. This one has a drip campaign associated with it. This one is with the little green arrows. This means that it's interactive. So I turned that on earlier in the webinar. So that's why we have these symbols, and that is what they mean. So there's actually a great deal of information that can be shown if you simply put your cursor onto elements, as it will sometimes pop up with some information that will be pertinent to you. Patty, yes. When you've set up the IMAP, it will bring in all correspondence going on outside of Greenrope with that specific contact, as it will be reading and pulling in the data from those emails. So if you don't want to pull in certain folders of your email account, that is why we provide those options. Why would I use the IMAP? Megan. The reason being is because we are a system where you send out emails. You can either do it as a personal email message or as a broadcast. And when people reply, we don't provide the inbox. So this allows you to then take in the information of those replied emails and the correspondence that you have with contacts outside of GreenRope into your CRM. And similar question for Eric. And then just to further clarify, I mentioned POP before. So IMAP and POP are both the tools that are utilized for your smartphones to pull in the email data. They are two different types of systems that do the same exact thing. Some email clients do not allow or do not have IMAP capabilities. So what you need to do then, if it's only POP, is, like I said earlier, forward the messages from your Outlook or whatever it might be to a Gmail account or to an account that does support IMAP, and then use the IMAP connections. And for a list of some of the servers, you can always go to the help section, type in IMAP, and it'll have a list of servers with the IMAP addresses to be able to make that connection within your account. I have a manager that will assign leads to salespeople. Set up a group for each salesperson, give them access to all of them. Will the salesperson be notified that he transferred it to them? Bill, yes, you will want to give that manager access to all the groups. No, he will not. No, they will not be notified unless you send them an email just informing them how to log in. So that's the best way. In the shared access, actually, this option isn't present in that backend, but you can send a direct message to them with this shared access. This little email icon will send them an informative email with how to log in. But generally, I just tell people, tell your contact, your sales manager, whoever it is, to go to the login page, click the forgot password link, and put in their email, and they will receive an email there. How do I delete your fields? You cannot delete the fields that we've already provided to you, but what you can do is move them to an inactive state in the visibility tab of the contacts page. So if there are elements like, height and weight, I took out. Skills and interests, let's say I didn't want that one anymore. I just simply drag it here and save changes. How do you customize your fields? Similar question, Ron. You can customize them and move them around here. If there are fields that we don't provide, you create them in the user-defined fields section of the group settings page. Again, group settings sit up here, user-defined data. So any fields that you create can then be fields that you can add elements. The why would I use IMAP? I believe I covered that, but if you need me to further explain that, I can. Just let me know. We have a lot of duplicates. What is the procedure for deduplicating merging companies and contacts? So, Robert, generally our system will identify duplicates based on email first, then first name and last name. If they do not get identified, which sometimes they do not, that's, when you're dealing with hundreds and thousands of contacts, surely there's going to be a few that slip the cracks and such. We do have a means of auditing your contacts with the Tools tab in the Contacts page, and then the Clean option here, remove and merge duplicate contacts. So if I do that, I don't have any, but what it would do is pull up a list, and it'll have one contact that's been identified and the other one, and you basically want to have one of them checked on so that it keeps that data and it merges the one that you've checked off into the other one. So basically it'll combine their data field or their data together to live in a harmonious unison. I thought, okay, so Megan, I thought groups corresponded with adding them to different groups, not giving them shared access to my account. Groups corresponded. So shared access, and this is important, shared access is given per group, per feature. Again, shared access is given per group, per feature. So whatever groups you don't give someone access to, they will not be able to see. And conversely to that, they will be able to see it. All the settings that you have for shared access are displayed in either section, the contact page, the groups page, or in the shared access section. This one's important to know. Shared access So if I want to look at Billy Bob, if I only turn on limited contacts for Billy Bob, he will actually only be able to see the contacts. He won't be able to edit them. So if I check this on, he will be able to edit them. If I check it off, he won't. So that's the only kind of like surgical compartmentalizing that's done with these features. But as far as anything else, if you turn on a feature, they will be able to access that feature. Um, Lisa, if you have different contacts coming from different trade shows, um, trade shows are probably something you attend a lot. I would just use a data field and just specify what trade show you met them in. That because if you're creating groups for every trade show, I mean you can have a multitude of groups. And while groups are a very good way of organizing your account, there is such a thing as having too many groups. In my opinion, I think a sweet spot is probably no more than 10, maybe 15 tops. But I would personally, if I was running a business, I would have no more than like 5 or 6 tops. So that's just an option. And you can always help compartmentalize your contacts with the filters that are provided because you can filter out any data field. Ron, how do you customize your fields? Again, so there's a multitude ways of customizing fields. If you want to change the view or turn off or make certain fields inactive, you can do so in the visibility tab of the contacts page. If you wish to create new fields, you just simply go to user defined data and create new fields or edit them in here and save the changes. But as far as the fields that we've already provided to you, you can't delete those or edit them. You can either move them off um, into an inactive state or just leave them as is. Is it possible to merge duplicate companies? No, the best thing to do would be to just search in the companies tab for the company and then just edit each person to the IBM or the one that you specifically would like. There are some tools available, and I don't want to dive too far into this because the recording time is getting close to its end. But essentially, in the tools and modify contacts, you can modify, but it's based on different data fields. So really the best thing to do would just be to identify the one that you want to keep, so IBM, and then just make sure that all the other people that are in like IBM Inc. and so on are conformed to that same company. Okay, Bill, I'm taking the leads are being transferred to a group. Example, manager transfers Sally prospect to Billy salesperson. How does Billy salesperson know that prospect? Uh, So the person will know by just being notified or going to their contacts page and seeing that they have a new contact in there. There's not really notifications for that. So that'd be the best way of doing that. There are notifications for sign up forms. If someone signs up for a group, you can have a notification email within the sign up form options. But as far as that, the salesperson or the manager would have to communicate that to the salesperson. All of these are the same. Yeah, I understand, Robert, but the company's tab and the way that it searches is based on the raw data that's been put into the system. So if I had like Green Rope in here, it's going to pull up anyone in Green Rope. But if there was like Green Rope Inc. as one of them, it's not going to associate Green Rope Inc. with Green Rope. So that's just an example. It goes based on like the raw textual data that's present in each context information. Uh, Yes, Bill. I mean, if you are going to compartmentalize your groups to the sales agents and such, you would have 50 groups. I would do that and then possibly create folders for each group, for each like region, maybe to just make this list a little bit more digestible on the eyes. But if you have 50 groups, then it's going to scroll down all the way. So you're going to want to have like you know, maybe 5 or 10 folders and then put like 10 of the groups within each one or 5 groups within each. so that you have kind of a shorter list to deal with, and then they'll each kind of pop out from one another according to how you categorize them. I apologize for the sound breaking up. I do actually, I need to cover some last things before we sign off for the day. One thing is to view the blog article about setting up your groups. We do have a full blog here. So if you go to the blog page, it's actually one of the first blogs here, as it was one of the most recently posted ones. And you actually have a video. It's a 15 minutes long that we've created for help setting up groups that has a little bit more in-depth explanations of the different settings that you can manage. Because I had a bunch of stuff to cover today. So this is a good video to watch. Another way of accessing this video is in the help section here by going to the group settings lesson 1. It's up here on the left hand side. Also, any webinar that we've done before, and this one will eventually be posted, you can post here on recorded webinars. They will be posted within a timely manner. Hopefully this one by tomorrow afternoon, or at the very latest Monday morning. So you can always review recorded webinars in there, as well as view any of our help section topics. Lastly, if you have any outright kind of elements that you need to build or apply to your system or to your account, we provide both quick start packages and in-person tutorials, or not in-person tutorials, but online one-on-one tutorials at $75 an hour, or you can buy like a three-hour package at $199, and then you have these quick start packages available if you have elements that you'd like one of our reps to help implement, and this would include sign-up forms, editing or creating a website, so on and so forth. All these are different elements that we provide to you within our services service packages. And then last but not least, if you have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out to us. The best email is support@greenrope.com, as it's the one that everyone receives, but we have various outlets of support here on the help page, which is the question mark on the top right. So I hope that this was informative for you all. If you have any follow-up inquiries or such, just email them to support@greenrope.com. But again, and as always, thank you very much for your time and for joining us with this webinar. It means a lot to us to have you, be attentive and participating in the various kind of elements and tutorials that we provide. This is an organic community and such, so remember that the whole system was developed through the ideas and the needs and the necessities of various businesses. So as always, if you have any suggestions, inquiries and such, please feel free to notify us at support@greenrope.com. And thank you guys very much, and enjoy the rest of your week, and hopefully the weekend for you all is excellent. Take care, and ta-ta for now.